What's up everyone, this is TwoScoops, and today I have the California Quad's FB-01, designed by Flying Bear Ken Liu. I'm going to go over the basic components that you're going to get in your kit, how to put this thing together, and show you some basic tips and tricks along the way. Here's what you'll find in your kit. One top plate, one bottom plate, one bottom brace, 4 5mm arms, 24 8mm screws, 4 10mm screws, 4 16mm screws, 4 TPU air mounts, 4 15mm standoffs, 1 antenna TPU mount, and 1 camera mount. Let's go ahead and grab our antenna mount and camera mount and our 4 15mm standoffs and slide those into place. I typically like to do this right away in my builds because it keeps them from rolling away. I've done that several times, and it's great to always have parts locked in place before we get going. Beautiful. So with that in place, I actually am going to go ahead and install my camera. I use the Runcam Swift. This is the V2. It's been a great camera for me. I like the short lens, but this will actually work with a GoPro lens as well. You can also use your HS1177s with this camera mount. Because this is nice and bendy, we're just going to pry these sides open. Don't pull too hard, we're not trying to break it, but hard enough that you'll be able to fit your camera in. Go ahead and slide that through. And we're looking for the screw mounts for the camera to line up with the slotted grooves on each side. We're going to go ahead and take our screws. I use the screws along with the spacer just to keep this thing nice and locked in place. And we'll go ahead and screw those into place. Cool. Now, this will allow you to go ahead and slide your camera into your different... Actually, let's unlock this a little bit. So you can now slide your camera and adjust your camera angle depending on how either you like to race or how your course has really got you set up. Once you have it the way you like, just come back in, lock these down, and you're all set. So we're going to put these two off to the side. We won't need those right now. We're going to turn our attention to this bottom plate, bottom brace, and our arms. So we're going to go ahead and flip this over, take our bottom brace and one of our arms, and we're going to take one of our 10mm screws, slide that right through the bottom plate here, slide the bottom hole through, and take a look at the fit. If this is a good fit, you should see everything follow the contour from the X all the way into the arms, nice and smoothly. If it's a bad or incorrectly installed, you'll notice that when you line up the holes, they don't actually follow the contour from the X into the arm. Now that we've got that, I'm going to go ahead and bring this over to my plate. Set this down and screw that into place. I'm not going to lock this all the way into place just yet. Give myself a little bit of wiggle room as I install the rest of my arms. Next, now that we've got these kind of in place, I've not locked these down all the way. They can still move just a touch. The reason I want to do that is we're going to go ahead and take our 16mm screws. We're going to slide these into place. We're going to go ahead and just true up this bottom part here. As we do that, and once these all once these slide into their slots, we'll be able to tighten everything down together. Take your time. You don't want to cross thread or rip any of those press nuts out. Those are really great as they're built right into the carbon fiber. We don't want to tear them out. As you'll notice, I haven't locked these down just yet. One of the things I'm going to do here, let's flip back over to here. I'm going to go ahead and grab my TPU FC camera, or my TPU air mounts. We're going to slide these down. We're going to keep the nub facing downward here, like so. Next thing we're going to do is grab our PDB. Before I go ahead and install this, let's talk a little bit about the PDB. One of the things for this build you're going to want is a PDB with corner tabs. That is important because as you go to build this, you'll notice that with a 15mm standoff tolerance, we don't have a lot of room to be able to run cables underneath if we need to do any kind of crossing over. We don't have enough room. We're limited on the amount of room that we'll have in between the actual PDB and the FC, along with the PDB and the carbon fiber bottom plate. So, making sure that you have things cut to length properly, and typically I use about 30 to 35 millimeters of cable between the PDB pad and my ESCs if I have my ESCs on the arms. There are some 4-in-1s that do work well with this build. You can head over to californiaquads.net if you want more information on that, or you can always hit me up and I can let you know, or at least try and help advise you on which ones may or may not work. The other thing to note here is I like to use my power leads coming off the side, and that's just after some runs with this, and in my experience, having them come right off the side here works well for both the horizontal and lateral configurations for this particular build. I've had great success with that. Just basically soldering in your power leads at about a 45-degree angle here keeps them from being flat and potentially moving around or eventually breaking and fraying those wires in there. It also adds just a little bit of structure to each side. But once we do this, we're going to go ahead and just take this FC, kind of slide that, or PDB, excuse me, slide this right into place here. And the reason why I didn't screw this all the way down, I don't like to really force the PDB down and potentially have it grinding on the screws as I'm trying to get it to come down flat. So I'll actually put this in where we're just a little bit, maybe a quarter turn or 2 turns in. And once that happens, I actually will then come back through and just tighten everything together with my PDB in place. What I've noticed is, one, I don't have to put as much force on the PDB to get it to lock itself into place. And 2, it's just much easier and it comes together much faster. So like that, we have just about built the base of our quad. So last thing we're going to do is take our board. I like to use the Racefight Revolt. There's plenty of other boards out there. Feel free to reach out and ask questions if you want to check to see if your board works. More than likely, as long as there's no tall standoffs in here, or anything that's really like some of those plastic cables, if they're really tall, you might want to be careful, again, with that 15 millimeter tolerance, but otherwise you should be fine. What we're going to do is just come in here, push down on our air mounts, and these will lock into place. Like so. Be patient. It does take a little bit of work to get them in. They're meant to stay in and lock in really well. But once they do, you've got a nice dampening system for your FC. One of the reasons, again, to really take note, we have only so much room in between the FC and the PDB. You've got enough room if you need to run some wires to the front for your camera. You've got enough room to be able to mount your VTX here, which I can show you with my TBS Unify. That'll fit perfectly right here between the PDB and your antenna mount. And you can actually just slide this right through the hole here. That's why it's recommended that you use a pigtail. And then just screw your antenna right onto the back there. And that works perfectly. A lot of us are running that right now, and we've had no issues. So just keep those things in mind as you go ahead and build this. We will go ahead and lock in our antenna mount right now, and as well our camera pod. So we're going to use 4 of those 8 millimeter screws. Go ahead and slide this through. I will have these little notches right at the top. And we're going to swing this around. Now, as we flip this over, you'll notice this little V groove here. If you look at your camera mount, it also has that V groove. Those are going to slide together. So if you look on the side here, there's just a little bit of a groove here. You're going to actually take that and slip that right in between the carbon fiber. Now, I'm going to place my finger and my thumb to hold these two in position. I'm going to slide my screw into position and lock that into place. Take your time. You'll feel the screw kind of grab itself into the standoff. We're going to do the same thing for the other side. Okay, so once those are nice and locked in place, we'll go ahead, turn our attention to this top plate. We're going to grab 4 more of those 8 millimeter screws.